Browns lose to the Commanders in week 1 of the preseason. Let's break down this game and get through all the important injury news that I know we're all dying to know regarding Elijah Moore and a couple other players. But as I film this right now, just as the game ended, what the hell, Stefanski? Like, I know it's late, but why not try the onside kick? That was kind of a bit of a bizarre move, but whatever. It's preseason. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But here's the final, 17-15. You had Dorian Thompson-Robinson once again steal the show. 9 of 10, 102 yards, 1 touchdown. He threw a beautiful pass to, I think it was Austin Watkins. And by the way, it wasn't Austin Watkins, but Austin Watkins, 6 grabs for 71 yards. David Bell, who got his first NFL touchdown, and then Mike Harley Jr. scored the second touchdown. But great touchdown pass from Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but enough of DTR for just a moment here. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson, who made his debut, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, was it way better than week 1 of the preseason last year. Deshaun Watson was 3 for 3. He had 20 yards on the ground in that first series. We didn't see him after that. I didn't need to see him after that. Deshaun Watson looked like we've kind of been told so far throughout training camp. Very small sample size, but he was accurate. He was athletic. He was evading Chase Young for a sack. If you want the spark notes on how Deshaun Watson looked, it was only a series, but he drove him down to the field, drove him down to the goal line, and they couldn't quite punch it in. But if you want individual performances to be noted, Deshaun Watson, for what he was asked to do, which was throw the ball 3 times, he was perfect at that. Now, before we get to the rest of my recap, highlights, and takeaways, along with injury news, make sure to subscribe, because the more subscribers we get here at Chat Sports, that means the more studio space I get, which means I can put out more content for you all. I'm talking maybe 2 videos a week sometimes. So subscribe down below if you have not already. Now, my takeaways to kind of go, full 360 on Deshaun Watson. He looked great, like I said. Against the Commanders, the stats, 3 for 3, 12 yards, 20 rushing yards. I know that the numbers in the box score don't look eye-popping, but he only threw the ball 3 times. He took what the defense gave him. He went up against the Washington Commanders' first-team defense, and I loved what I saw from his legs, if anything. He was nearly sacked one time by Chase Young. He slipped out of a sack a couple of times. He picked up a first down or 2 with his legs. If you want to know if Deshaun Watson looked good so you can sleep better, the answer is yes. So with that being said, how would you grade the Browns' performance altogether against Washington? It's only preseason week 1. I said before our watch party, the sinister in me says I hope the Browns don't win because I don't want to see them go 4-0 in the preseason. So if Jacoby Brissett picks up a win by some good second-half play, I'm not going to really be all that upset about it. So for me, I'll give it like a C+. Once that first-team offense came out, it kind of dragged under Josh Dobbs, which we'll talk about later on. But getting back to the first-team offense, it was a new offense under Kevin Stefanski. I mean, the first play was 5 wide receivers on the field, if I recall correctly. We are starting to see those new wrinkles of what a Deshaun Watson-led offense looks like in Cleveland, because over the last 3-4 years under Kevin Stefanski, whatever it's up to now, the offense was run the football, right? It was multiple tight ends on the field, not a lot of wide receivers, not a lot of 11 personnel, but a lot of 12 personnel, 21 personnel, and that is evolving and that is changing. So if you want to watch some good old college football in Cleveland, you're going to get that this year. They are going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to air it out a ton, and we got a small dosage of that in Deshaun Watson's debut, if you will, this year, with just the personnel look we had in a couple of plays. Let's have an uncomfortable conversation for a moment. It might be worse than the birds and the bees with your parents. Get Robbie Gould on the next direct flight to Cleveland. Get it done, because you need to bring in another kicker. We have gone through 2 preseason games with Cade York, and once again, we had a miss within 50 yards. He has the yips. It's in his head. It's all mental. And the only thing is, there's no getting that mental block out. He can go practice all he wants. He can make 50 straight 50-yard field goals at practice tomorrow. The fact is, when the lights come on and the pads come on and the game jerseys are on, something switches. And I'm not going to let the season go down the toilet because of a Cade York missed 44-yard field goal. So bring in some real competition. Go get Robbie Gould. Go get another kicker. I don't really care who. But we can't just baby Cade York anymore. So if you think they should bring another kicker in, let me know in the comments. I definitely am in favor for that. Now let's get on to the injury news here. And that is Elijah Moore. He went to the medical tent after the first series. And then he went to the locker room. He got x-rays on his ribs. They came back negative. So that's the good news. And I'm not a doctor, but a bruised rib, which is probably what he's dealing with, if I had to speculate, is not going to take him overly long to recover. I mean, the first real game is not for another month. Bubble wrap. I mean, we saw what we wanted to see out of the first team offense. They moved the ball down the field. They got to the goal line. Sure, they couldn't punch it in, but I'll say it. Nick Chubb probably scores a touchdown there. So it doesn't really matter. So bubble wrap the offense. Bubble wrap all of your key guys. You did it with Petonio. You did it with Garrett. You did it with Chubb this game. Cooper as well. Tossing Elijah Moore into that mix. He looked great. He looked explosive. He took a carry out of the backfield like 20 yards down the sideline. Bubble wrap. Bring him to UPS. They'll do it for you. Seriously, just roll him on in. Straight off the gurney from the Browns medical tent. I don't want to see Elijah Moore play another preseason snap. I have seen what I need to see. It's all great, unlike Anthony Schwartz, who will have that conversation later on. But bubble wrap. So, what are your thoughts? Do you want the starters to play again this preseason? Did you see enough, or do you feel like, hey, let's be honest, it was not, perfect, and we want to shake off some more cobwebs until we get to that first regular season game, because it's not the Cardinals coming to town. It's the Bengals. So I can kind of see both sides, but I think you should shut down most, if not all, of your main starters. You can leave like Jordan Elliott on the field if you want to. Fifth and final takeaway I've got from this game is Dorian Thompson-Robinson really going to give Dobbs a run for his money to be this team's backup quarterback? They gave Josh Dobbs $2 million guaranteed. So if you're wondering if they're going to cut Dobbs, they're not. But maybe DTR moves in front of Dobbs on the depth chart. I mean, I don't want to even really kind of speak it into existence, but stick with me for a moment. If something were to happen to a certain player who wears a number in between 3 and 5, who do you want coming off the bench? Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who went 9 for 10 and 102 yards and a touchdown? Or Dobbs, who went 8 for 16 and 77 yards and an interception? They went up against different defenses, so it's not quite apples to apples. Dobbs was our preseason prince last year. I think he might be passing it on to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And this is also a good reminder as to why I liked the DTR pick. Sure, you didn't need a quarterback in round 5. Maybe you could have gone linebacker or something, and there are some good players still out there. But quarterback is just so valuable. So if there's a player on your big board that has no business being still available in the 5th round of the draft, you take him and you figure out where you get him on the field later. But I like the pick so far. I mean, I love the pick at the time, and I'm liking the results so far. So those are my big takeaways. Some other quick injury news, kind of off the top of my head. Jacob Phillips left the game. He did not return. A.J. Green dealt with a shoulder injury, also did not return. So you had a couple of guys get nicked up, but the big name was, of course, Elijah Moore. Ribs, x-rays were negative, so positive to see. Some other closing thoughts I have. We also have a super chat we'll throw on screen here. But some other thoughts I had coming out of this game on the defensive line side for a moment. Siaki Ika playing in the 4th quarter might be very telling. Maybe Ika is not where the Browns want him to be yet, so they are just loading up all the snaps as much as possible so that he can be a good member of this rotation when the regular season gets started. Because if Ika's out there in the 4th quarter, Oh, and also fire me as a host, because we are how many minutes into this now? Almost 10 minutes or so. Austin Watkins is making the roster. Austin Watkins is getting a statue. Anthony Schwartz, does he even make it to the Eagles game? Is anyone going to be that shocked if I'm doing a video in 3 to 4 days that says Anthony Schwartz has been cut? Now, I will add that this year, there are no mandatory roster cutdown days, so there's no minimum of 90 to 85, 85 to 80. So you might see some rolling cuts after the first preseason game or the second for Cleveland, and they decide, we've seen enough from you, 10. It's just not going to happen here. So let's cut you now. Honestly, do you a favor, and that way you can probably try and make someone else's roster or at least go to their camp. So Austin Watkins' stock is skyrocketing, and Anthony Schwartz is not making the roster. Make sure to subscribe, by the way. We did have a super chat come on, so let's get the super chat on screen right now. We'll include that in our post-game show here. And then we're going to wrap up with picking a card, too. But we did have a super chat fly on screen from Rick Atkins. I retract my Cade York post. So I think a lot of us maybe have to walk back some Cade York takes after week 1 of the regular season last year. I want Cade York to bounce back, but I'm not about going into the regular season hoping he'll turn it around. That's not going to work here. I can't do that. That's okay. We don't need the bottom part. So let's pick a card to wrap up the show. And shout out to Ray Bidding for getting the card right for our Deshaun Watson jersey giveaway. I told him 10 of hearts, and then it literally hit. That's pretty wild.
Yes, you did. It was pretty legendary stuff, honestly. I didn't think we'd get there in preseason week 1, I'm not going to lie.
I'm picking 10 of hearts right now.
Okay, so I'm going to go with, I don't know, Jack of Spades.
And I'm shuffling, too. Like, I'm doing, this is for Cam, I'm doing the big bridge and everything.
I heard that.
Yep. It's not very good, but I'm getting better. Okay. 10 of hearts. What do you go?
I got Jack of Spades.
It's not 10 of hearts. 7 of clubs.
Okay.
7 of clubs. I feel like that card's never been picked
Fair
before.
enough.
But that's our post-game show. Thanks so much for tuning into it. If you enjoyed our coverage here, consider subscribing. We're always talking brownies all year long.